So Jean?
I'm delighted to be here as the token MD and token Caucasian in this session. um, I'm going to be talking about the Driving Biologic Project for IDASH, which is preserving analytics. The privacy for Kawasaki disease patients who are African Americans. And those of you who have heard my talks before are well acquainted with this disease, but we care about it because it's the most common cause of acquired heart disease in childhood. And we know that there is a specific genetic component to this. But interestingly, although African Americans appear to be overrepresented and have increased susceptibility compared to other populations here in the United States, they have been excluded from all of the genetic studies because of the problems of finding control groups for them and population stratification. So the genetic studies have focused on largely European descent populations. So we wanted to fix that. So the first aim was to look at the influence of genetic variants on KD susceptibility in African American children. But for this, we needed databases to compare to. And one of those databases resides in the UK, where they are strictly prohibited from sharing genomic data outside of the UK. So that's where the privacy preserving part comes in. And the privacy preserving techniques were really described in the previous talks. So I'm going to be talking about how we have worked to establish a new Kawasaki Disease Research Center in Atlanta. And although you've heard about the great sophistication in terms of computer science at Emory, that was not the case in terms of clinical research, and particularly not clinical research with the African American community. So my job really was to organize that group so that we could help them to gather the DNA samples that we need to make this whole project go. Because although all of the bioinformatics is terrific, it all depends on the collection of patient samples at the very beginning of the work. So these are data not from Emory because they don't have yet a sophisticated epidemiologic understanding of the disease in their community, but rather from UCSD, where in the yellow bars you can see our African American patients, although we have a very small African American community here as represented in the population of the San Diego County where this is drawn from. You can see that in most years, African Americans as an attack rate, looking at cases per 100,000 children less than 5 years of age, were in fact overrepresented. So they have a unique genetic susceptibility after Asians who have the highest susceptibility to this disease. And here's some data from Emory just showing the total number of their Kawasaki disease patients. They actually have the largest number of patients per year of any hospital in the country, and we think that's largely due to their enormous African American population there with the increased genetic susceptibility. So here are the milestones that we've achieved so far. This is the boots on the ground view of research. It doesn't sound very sexy, but this is where everything starts. We got them to hire an African American coordinator with the appropriate social and political sensitivities for this project. We helped them to create a REDCap database that was modeled on the UCSD database, which was already in place, and so that was a great boon to their research, that they could really just import our case report forms, which saved them a lot of time. That we were also able to share with them our IRB approval for genetic studies. They were unfamiliar with this kind of procedure, so they were able to model on the UCSD approved forms and get through their IRB. They also needed to restructure some of their clinical management of the patients and follow-up so that a cardiology Kawasaki disease clinic could be created, so it would concentrate the patients in a single clinic day so that they could more easily enroll patients in the genetic study. They established protocols for mouthwash, cheek swab, and whole blood collection, various ways of getting the DNA out of the patients. And establish standardization of echo readings. So this is the phenotype of the patients because, of course, genotype without phenotype is useless. And they have now initiated community outreach to help them find their patients. So these are our achievements. This is what the REDCap database data entry form looks like, again, modeled after the one that we already have here in San Diego. We also organized and hosted a 2-day international conference with the other members of the International Kawasaki Disease Genetic Consortium here at UCSD, and we got the folks from Atlanta to come, and here's the group with David Lloyd, who's the PI at Atlanta, standing in the very back. So that was good to get him meeting the rest of the group that had been working on the genetics of KD for some time. So to date, the enrollment of subjects in Atlanta, we have 20 African American trios. So this is biologic mother, father, and the affected child. We have also been collecting DNA from African American patients here at UCSD and through collaborators in Boston and Chicago. We have 72 trios, and the genetic data would support the fact that we can combine our African American genetic analysis with Afro-Caribbean individuals, and so through the international collaboration through our French collaborator, Isabelle Cohn-Poe, we have 95 trios of African Caribbean descent. Our initial goals were to collect a total of 250 African American DNA samples, and we have tested the Atlanta samples for quality control, and there are no problems there. There were some bugs in the two-center authentication for the REDCap database. Those have been solved, and the data entry from Atlanta is monitored here at UCSD for quality control, and so far that's been going well. And as I said, our goal is to collect 250 African American samples. So we've got 63 trios left to collect, but I think we've finally got critical mass going at Emory, and I expect that we'll achieve these goals. You can see here the sample size calculations that fed into that number of 250 needed. So I'm not going to go into the data integration and the privacy preserving aspects because those have really been covered in the previous talk, and I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you.